Hi, everyone. We'll get started. Welcome to this session. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lori Allen Requa, and I'm joining you from Laney College in Oakland, California, and I will be the moderator of this session. We are very glad to have you with us and really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Before we begin, I've got a few housekeeping items to go over. The session is being recorded, as you heard. If you don't want to be seen in the recordings, please do feel free to turn off your webcam throughout the session. Please keep your microphones muted unless invited to speak. I can help you with that as well. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat at any time. I will be monitoring it, but our presenter may as well. If we don't address questions in the middle of the session, there is time at the end to address questions. The closed caption feature is enabled, so you can activate it by clicking on the show captions. This is down in the bottom toolbar. It could also be CC live transcript. If neither of those are visible, click on the more button, and then you should be able to find one of those two things there. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Milena Angelova. She is from St. Mary's College, and the title of the session is Advancing Equity in Online Learning Through Data Governance.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for um, attending this session. My name is Milena Angelova, and today I will speak about advancing equity in online learning through data governance. And I intend this to be more interactive and not a presentation. So I have a question for you right from the beginning. How many of you, just raise your hands, find this title a little bit strange and ask themselves, oh, what does data governance have to do with improving equity? I just want to see. No.
Looks normal to me.
Okay. It's a little bit off the main stream that teaching and learning is about equity, support is about equity. But what I argue today is that data is as important. And in a little bit, we'll see why. Um, so I serve as Director of Institutional Effectiveness in St. Mary's College of California. And two things that you have to know about me is the first thing, I'm very passionate about increasing equity for our students because it allows us to improve the life in our communities and in our society. And the second thing is that I'm also very passionate about data governance. So now you can see the synergy and how it relates to my presentation. I'm a member of Data Governance Committee and as Director of Institutional Effectiveness. I also lead a few data governance initiatives on campus. So this is the abstract. I'm not going to go over it. I will just jump. Oh, there's a difference in stuff. I will just jump to what we will explore today. So the first thing, I want to challenge the assumption about equity gaps and focus you to think about whether or not the equity gaps that we calculate might be misleading at some time. And I apologize here for the image. I think it distorted when we went to Google presentation instead of PowerPoint. So then we will explore how definitions and data structure actually shape our data metrics. And those metrics specifically for this presentation related to equity. And then we will see how alignment or misalignment also can change the conclusions when we analyze those metrics. Then I will discuss an example related to the practice, and I will talk about the retention rates for online students. And then we will see how we can move from these presentations, from the insights that we earned here to some action. So what are the learning outcomes? I will be very happy if we take a few things from this presentation. So the first one is being able to articulate how data governance actually influences our metric outcomes for equity. The second one is to identify what risk factors can affect our equity conclusions, analysis and conclusions. And then we will have example with our institutions, try to evaluate how institutions' online equity metrics are grounded in clear and shared definitions. That's something very important. And then what are some steps that we can do in order to increase equity through data governance? So the first thing is first, let's set the stage for this discussion here. And the main idea here is to frame the role of data in equity work, how data affects equity work. And this is another thing. Maybe I can switch. Can I switch to my, see, the images here are not very good. So I think I will go to my desktop presentation. Apologies for that. Okay. Yeah. So I will just switch to my presentation because here the images are kind of distorted and they somehow lost their color. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so let's go to this one. So my main argument is that equity work depends on data. And those are four things that actually affect our equity works. So the first one, we use data to identify equity gaps, right? We use the data to calculate our metrics. And so this is what it means. The data informs intervention decisions. So we use our metrics, we use the insights to actually plan and implement our equity interventions. The fourth one is the data shapes resource allocation. I mean, it's true for many of the institutions here when we have, for example, grant-supported initiatives for equity. We use those metrics, we use the data to actually relocate, do resource allocation, and even for institutional budgets, we do that. And then the fourth one is data drives institutional decisions. Again, it's decision about creating new programs or decisions about creating new supports for online students and decisions about creating creating support like tutoring, like mentoring, all other things that we need to plan to improve the student outcomes of our students. So now let's rethink what is that we see when we look at equity metrics. And so the thought I'm bringing here is that equity depends on how data is defined because it affects our metrics. And the question here to all of you is how confident, when you look at your equity metrics data in your institution, how confident are we that the equity conclusions we draw accurately reflect student experiences? Maybe can you raise hand, or are you confident? Or do you have any doubts? Oh, I don't know about this data. Any hands? I can see.
I need a so hand.
Okay. Yeah, but this is a driver question for all this presentation, right? So it's a fundamental question here. Okay, we see equity metric for retention, for graduation, for course success. But do we question at any point when we look at this data? Well, is that really what students experience, right? Or are there any other factors affecting this metric? There are some factors, and this is one of my major points here. For people who haven't realized, and I think many of you have realized, maybe some of all of those factors, but the data is not immediate representation of reality. It's constructed. The data is a construct. And there are four major things. There are some many too, but those are the major groups that actually help construct our data. So the first one is the definitions that we use, the definitions and rule when we create our equity metrics. The second one is how the underlying data actually is captured and recorded. This affects the data quality that we have. The third one is how the data is transformed in our system and what are the structure and the pipelines that bring the data to our desk, so the reports. And then the fourth one is how this data is influenced by practices and policies. All those shape the reliability of our equity metrics. So what can go wrong when we construct our data? What are some things that can go wrong, can break, and then can negatively affect the equity metrics that we see? We have four things here again. So what those can be is inconsistent definitions. So probably in your institutions, you have some data element definitions that are not, you have a few floating around in the institution. And each definition will create a different outcome. Another one is data quality issues. And data quality issues relate to how we capture and record data. We can have missing data. We can have incorrect coding, inconsistent coding. And also another thing is fragmented reporting. When we have multiple reports that are trying to overlap and try to calculate the same thing, but they're created by different groups on campus. And now we have created reporting silos, which lead to different results. And this is very important. And why is it important? Because all those factors compound. So there is not only one factor that affects the quality of the metric, but there are those all factors that I mentioned before. And so small variations in each factor can actually compound and lead to a big impact. And what we have here, we have the same student group, but we have differences in definitions. We may have differences in data quality. We may have differences in system and processes. And then this is compounding, and then it will lead to different results. So I will give you an example of that, and it is about retention. So in one of my institutions, we had fall-to-fall retention in online program, student program. It was fully online. And the first time we were trying to calculate what is there a gap in the retention for different groups, we didn't find anything that was statistically significant. But working with the data, we actually found many inconsistencies. So the first one was about cohort definition misalignment. And when we looked in the definitions, we had two different definitions. So one definition was using only fall enrollment to calculate the cohort. And a second definition was using fall, but also the previous summer term. So students who first enrolled in the previous summer term. And this was leading to distortions. So because the different reports weren't documenting very well what definition they were using, we had those different results. The second one is inconsistent modality, online modality. And this was something related to how we tagged modality. And especially the staff who was doing that, there was a big turnover. And so they didn't have onboarding specifically for data. And for this reason, no professional development for that. And for this reason, the new person who came actually miscoded the online, and this created also distortion. And then we discovered another thing which was missing race and ethnicity. In our database, we have a large amount of students who were actually had blank on race ethnicity. So this affected the calculations. When we addressed all of these three impacts, three practices, we actually had a significant impact. So from no equity gap, we actually found a 3 percentage point gap in the fall-to-fall retention for underrepresented minority students. So that was eye-opening. So now we see how different elements of data construct can affect the quality of our data metrics. Now let's look at how data governance shapes equity metrics, because this will lead to what we can do in order to improve the data underlying our data metrics. So here is a schema of major data governance areas. And in the center, I put equity metrics because each of those areas affects the quality of our equity metrics. And here we have course success, retention, and graduation, but we have many other metrics. So the first one, data governance area, is policy and definitions. And you know what definitions are, but the policies, they describe what counts, what rules we have for inclusions, what students to include or exclude in the programs, right? This is directly connected to the equity metrics. The second one is the data quality. And for the data quality, we have, of course, accuracy and completeness. And it depends on our systems, how we enter data owners, how they enter the data. Is it consistent? Is it complete? In many systems, when we looked at our data governance practices about data quality, we discovered inconsistencies in ethnicity data and also in modality data and in gender data. And those were affecting our equity metrics big time. Then we have systems in interaction, and this area affects the data pipelines. Even though if you have complete data set with 100% accurate data, the transformations that the data is moving through the pipeline to come from the database to your reporting can also affect data quality. Yes. Another thing is the data integration. So sometimes in some equity metric, in order to create the metric, we need data from different units on campus. And it's very important to know how to integrate the data accurately. And so this is another thing that affects the reliability of our metrics before we start analyzing them. And the last one is processes and accountability. So this is who manages the whole system, who defines and approves the metrics, what kind of change management we apply to keep our data system or ecosystem up to date. And so the main thing here is, the main thoughts here is equity metrics are shaped by multiple factors. So this is something that I want you to remember. The second one is that misalignment across those creates distortion. It may be one of those areas, but in reality, multiple areas create distortion. And then the small inconsistencies can lead to a change in our story, the story that we have for the equity, the equity in our programs, online programs. And then there is a solution. We can solve all of this by actually working to improve our data governance. So now, I wanted to ask if you have any questions so far, because we will have a small activity here.
Are there any questions from anybody?
No questions. Okay, so let's go, and it's basically a reflection. So now that we've seen how data is affected by certain factors, let's reflect for your institutions and think about few things. So the first thing is, let's try to identify a situation where data led to misleading conclusion. The second question is, what made it misleading? The third question is, which area was most at risk? And the fourth question that you need to discuss is, what was the impact on decisions and actions? And so this activity will be 10 minutes, and Lori will put you in groups, 4 or 5. And I will share a link where you can record your responses. It's a shared sheet. And when you're ready, I mean, each group will be expected to share 1 or 2, or if you want, 3 of your findings. So let me find here the link that I have, and I will put it in the chat.
And when you're done with that, I'm ready to open the breakout rooms.
Okay, sounds great.
And you said you wanted 4 participants per room, 3 to 4?
Yeah, yes. I can see, I see the presentation here on the screen. Oh, the chat isn't there. Okay, let me put it in the chat. So this is the link to the worksheet, and it's very important to put your findings because here in our small group community, we can learn from each other, right? Okay, so I put it in the chat, and please let me know if you can't access it. Oh, people are coming here. Okay,
I can open it, okay.
Okay.
Are you ready for me to open the rooms?
Yes, please.
All right, folks, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. You should get an invitation. Go ahead and jump in that room. Milena, I did not assign you to a room. Do you want to join a room?
Yeah, we can join one of the small rooms.
Okay. That's what I was gonna do too. So
Yeah.
let me see.
And I don't know if our groups can see the prompt. I
Probably not. So I can come in and add the link. So I'm gonna add you to room 2 because there's only room 2 and room 5 only have one person. So I'll add you to room 2 and then I'll jump in room 5. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. There you go. You should have the invite.
Hi, Lori. Nobody joined my group. I cannot hear what you're saying.
Yes, it helps when I unmute. I am checking on everybody and then I was going to jump into your room, but do you just want to stay here and I'll join you momentarily?
It's okay. I mean,
Or another suggestion I have, we have room one and room two, open with people, we can directly join them too. Or
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, sure. I'll join.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. So, let me put you in a different room. Okay, you should get an invite for room one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Edom, do you want to join a room? I didn't assign you to a room.
No, probably I'll go back to the other room. But I was wondering if we should pause the recording.
That their passion.
We had two groups.
Okay, so group one. Who is in group one? What did you guys discuss and you want to share back to the bigger group? Diane, you're mute.
Diane, you're muted.
Do that. Okay. So we were all discussing where we were from and our backgrounds, but again, we knew the spreadsheet and the spreadsheet, the area that I was bringing up and that the others, it seems like the person from the Institute, I might say her name wrong, Dr. Perez, I can say, she really has a lot of data also. I have a lot of data from a lot of workforce grants, 34 million as of the other day, 40 over the years that go to the schools. So the data itself, my big area for the work that I have been doing and that I've been explaining is related to retention for the nursing student. So some of the schools go as high as 32% attrition. And we got to get that to a much better retention. And that's been my area for quite a few years. And I've been able to move forward with 0 to 3%. And what is the major reason for this and what's misleading? Everyone feels like they're doing things really well, and they are, and everyone means well when they're teaching, but it's all about consistency. And there's what's called testing programs. And I know we all feel bad about testing students, but in nursing, one cannot become an RN if they can't pass the NCLEX exam. So we want to keep that positive, and that's why I call my program Strategies for Success to keep it positive. And therefore, when we test, we're not being punitive at all. We're just testing to help them be able to translate what they're learning into the testing so that they do pass that RN exam in the end. But we're not teaching per se only to the test. We're teaching the overall mission of the school and such, but we're also making sure we work with them in their teaching and learning and testing strategies. So, with that, we've been able to move this forward. The impact on decision making or that conclusion has been the school where I am right now. We've just this semester, the entire year, we went to 0 attrition. There's only 21 students, but we are working day and night with them. They are all going to graduate. We're all going to bring out the balloons and the cake and everything as we have before. And we are going to stay with them. Oh, thank you. That's what Dr. Perez was in our group. We're going to stay with them till they pass that NCLEX. And I do what I call strategies for success boot camps. And I don't just do this myself. It's with the team. It's not, I might be the one who brought this forward to a point, but it's everyone's strategy. It's like all the strategies we're learning today. That's what's important. So that's basically, it seemed like Dr. Perez's group has a lot of data also related to that. And our other person, Alexandra, she was saying she was looking at how to collect more data. So if you have anything to add, please do.
Diane, thank you very much for this reflection. It's great to hear what you have done to improve retention in nursing programs. That's amazing. And this is why we are doing this work, right?
Well, I just love my students and I love my faculty and want to make sure that we are able to move forward because we need more nurses and we need those students to pass or they get very upset, by the way. And I don't want them upset.
Thank you. Any other insights? Do you have a time for one more?
I wasn't in a group, but oh, was there somebody else?
No, I don't know if you wanted some other from our group, but I think that well, but we realized that we have worked in the same organization for a few years in different periods, but it is an organization that students really need a lot of support, and as well as the faculty, at least the time when I was there. And I think that Diane did an amazing job in helping the institution that seems to be kind of cyclical in terms of their emergency to do better. and I remember when I was there that I disaggregated the data, and the majority of the students were Latino students. And I shared this with the executives and faculty that had been there for like 30 years. And one of them was so emphatic to tell me, no, this is an African American organization. It was founded because of African Americans. And I was just didn't know how to bring across that pretty much the organization was surrounded by Hispanic students or Latino students or Latinx students. And he was not able to comprehend that reality. And this is one of the persons that it was a faculty, it was in the faculty senate. And it's one of those issues about equity and understanding of the data and sharing the data, and how it will be a matter of time when this individual would actually realize that every time he's around, maybe there are very few African Americans and mostly Latinos. Now, Latinos are of colors and flavors, so it's not like uni color skin. But that's one of the other issues about the data and people not wanting to accept certain realities that the data bring you forth about, what is the students that you're serving.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Dr. Perez, for sharing that. And now we can go a little bit further and we can recognize some patterns. So first of all, in your discussions, you saw that not only your institution, but other institutions have similar problems, experience similar data issues. So this issue is not the data quality, the data structure and pipelines, data governance is not isolated issue. It's a structural misalignment on many occasions. When we have data silos, when we have multiple definitions floating around campus. So we need to realize that and try somehow to address it. This is what will improve the quality of our equity metrics. Data, what are some data governance gaps that we need to address in order to improve our data quality? So those match or map the 4 areas of data governance, and there is, I listed here 2 interventions for each one, but there are more. I think those are the fundamentals. First, we can change data policy and definitions. So how we do that? If your campus don't have data dictionary, which is widely used and it's a single a source of truth in terms of definitions, you can start establishing one. You can also standardize using the source, standardize the definition. What would be the impact of that? So it ensures consistent calculation of metrics, because if we have more than one metric, then this impacts equity calculations and our conclusions. And then it also prevents multiple variation of the same metric. The second area is the data quality, the recording issues. So what we can do here to improve data quality is conduct data audits and clean up on regular basis. And if we have time, I would love to learn how this happens on your campus if you know about that. It has significant impact because it reduces missing or inaccurate data. If you have dealt with unknown data field before, when you calculate your equity metrics, this is something that will address this issue, right? We have many students from disadvantaged backgrounds that actually choose not to disclose their ethnicity because it's not mandatory, right? Another impact, it impacts, of course, the retention case. It impacts the number of students in the retention counts in the denominator. Another area that we can address to improve the quality of data in our metrics, equity metrics, is system and integration. So we have multiple systems on campus. In our campus, we have Colic, which is our database, but we also have Slate, which is a system for admissions, applications, and admissions. And then we have metrics that actually require merging of these two data sets. We notice that actually for the same student, these two systems have different ethnicities. And this is another thing that if we align, it ensures that we have consistently classified students across the system. That's something very important. And then the last one is processes and accountability. So we need to define our metrics, and we need to have the units who own the metrics, because those metrics are not set in stone, they change, and we need to have appropriate mechanism to actually update that. It impacts what is the official metric, right? And it also maintains consistency from over time. For example, for the retention or graduation metrics, those are metrics. Retention is 1 year metric, and the graduation, it depends on the program. It may be 2 year or 4 year or 6 year graduation rate. And then we need to be consistent in time. That's why we need to maintain, we have to have a process to maintain those metrics. So what do we do in practice? How do we take this? So if you don't have data governance on campus, my recommendation is to start small. And here are the 3 things that you can do today, after the presentation, or tomorrow. I mean, everybody can do those. The first thing is to identify just one metric. It may be retention, if that's very important to you. It may be access, it may be graduation, it may be course success, but just take one metric and then evaluate what are the factors that affect the accurate calculation of this metric, right? Because it's important how we view what our students experience and how we can help them, support them to be more successful. And then for this metric in your evaluation process, think about what is the working definition. What is the quality of the data which is underlying this definition? What systems are used to bring this data into our reports, if they're aligned? And what are the processes that we use to transform this data? And then the last question would be, what is one governance step you can take right now? So is it accessing, contacting your IT professional and asking about definitions? If you have a data governance committee, is it going to one of their meetings and asking about the definition that you're using or the definition that is in the report? So be a little bit proactive about how the data comes to your report, what is the definition, what is the underlying system, what is the underlying process. And so with this, I thank you. Thank you for listening and staying until the end of the session. And now is the time if you have questions. But before that, if you have questions and want to contact me, my phone is here and I also put my email and I'm available to answer, especially emails. You can find me. You will receive answer from me anytime.
Thank you so much, Milena. We have time for one question if anybody's got a quick question. If not, like Milena said, her email address is there. Please do contact her. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now to prep for the next session, which will start in about 10 minutes.
So can
Thank you.
I ask a question?